What do diabetes, cancer, and obesity have in common? The underlying cause of all three is insulin resistance. According to Dr. Robert Lustig, professor of endocrinology, insulin resistance is now also linked to a range of other serious illnesses. Type 2 diabetes is a manifestation of insulin resistance at the level of the liver. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a manifestation of insulin resistance at the ovary. Cardiovascular disease is a manifestation of insulin resistance at the heart. Alzheimer's disease, we are learning, is a manifestation of insulin resistance in the brain. The problem is that at this stage, you can't be certain whether you have insulin resistance. However, by the age of 50, most people discover that their bodies no longer respond to insulin the way they once did. Dr. Lustig also emphasizes that modern medicine makes little effort to address the issue or raise awareness about how dangerous insulin resistance truly is. 93% of Americans have at least one aspect of metabolic dysfunction. Only 7% of Americans are metabolically healthy. And the way you know you have metabolic dysfunction is if you have insulin resistance. So that means 93% of Americans have a fasting insulin that's above, I would say, 5 micronits per mil, and that confers some degree of metabolic dysfunction. Most people don't know whether they have insulin resistance. And the reason is because they haven't gotten a fasting insulin drawn by their doctor. They haven't known to ask, and the doctor hasn't known to do it. The key to combating insulin resistance lies in addressing its root causes. And according to Dr. Robert Lustig, nutrition plays a pivotal role. And what we've learned is that the primary driver of insulin resistance is liver fat. Fat in the liver? Now, once upon a time, 50 years ago, if you had fat in your liver, you were an alcoholic, period. That was the only thing that caused fat in the liver. Today, 45% of the U.S. population has fatty liver disease. Now, notice I didn't say 45% of the obese U.S. population. I said 45% of the whole U.S. population, and 25% of the children. And notice I didn't say obese children. I said all children have fatty liver disease. Back in 1975, no one had it other than alcoholics. This is the biggest pandemic of all. This leaves CO in the friggin' dust in terms of incidence and prevalence. Okay, it just doesn't kill you in 5 days like CO did. Instead, it kills you in more like 15 to 20 years. But this is the biggest pandemic of all. Now, why does the liver store more fat? Why is the liver not burning that energy? And therefore, why does the insulin have to go up? And that's what this is really all about. Why are the mitochondria not working? Because if they were working, number one, you wouldn't be storing the liver fat. Number two, your liver would remain insulin sensitive. And number three, your pancreas wouldn't have to make enough insulin, that much insulin, to make the liver do its job. In which case, then you wouldn't be shunning sugar too fast. Now, there are a lot of things that can damage the mitochondria. Poor diet in general will damage the mitochondria because mitochondria are made of fats, but they're made of specific fats. And if you don't get enough of those specific fats in your diet, essential fatty acids in your diet, you can't make good mitochondria and they go bad easily, in which case you have mitochondrial dysfunction because you didn't eat the right fats. In fact, a high-fat diet based on whole natural foods could be the key to longevity because it targets the root cause of most health problems, insulin resistance. Dr. Robert Lustig emphasizes that not all fats are created equal, and it is crucial to understand which types actually support your health. The first fats to include in your diet to combat insulin resistance are saturated fats. These consist of fatty acids with no double bonds, making them stable when heated, non-inflammatory, and most importantly, easily digested without triggering insulin release. You'll find healthy saturated fats in farm, fresh butter, eggs from free-range hens, and grass-fed beef. Everyone thinks saturated fatty acids are the devil incarnate. They think that is the worst of all the fatty acids. And the reason they think that is because that's what we were told for 45 years. Saturated fat was evil, and that if you ate too much of it, it would plug up your arteries and you'd get heart disease. And so, therefore, we all needed to go low fat because saturated fat was bad for you. In addition, because saturated fat is saturated fat, comes from lard and from pigs and from cows and saturated fat. If you get rid of saturated fat, that means you're getting rid of the cows and the pigs and the goats and everything. And you know the vegans would like that very much. So there's sort of a feed-forward problem there. Turns out saturated fat is not one saturated fat. There are even-chain saturated fatty acids, which are what S in red meat. And then there are odd-chain saturated fatty acids, which are what S in dairy. Turns out the odd-chain saturated Fatty acids are metabolized differently than the even chain. And also, the odd chain saturated fatty acids have a different phospholipid signature. They have a tail on the end which makes them polar, which makes them actually bind to other things and activate other things. That phospholipid is very important, and it turns out that that phospholipid signature is anti-inflammatory. So it turns out dairy saturated fat is actually anti-inflammatory, whereas red meat saturated fat is not, but it is not pro-inflammatory either. A powerful ally in the fight against insulin resistance is polyunsaturated fat, most notably omega-3. This essential fat delivers a wide range of health benefits. Omega-3 help restore cellular sensitivity to insulin, particularly in muscle and liver tissues, and they enhance mitochondrial function. They also lower levels of C-reactive protein, a key marker of inflammation. Just as importantly, for those aiming to lose weight, omega-3 help regulate leptin, the satiety hormone often disrupted in cases of metabolic syndrome. Omega-3 fatty acids will help insulin resistance, no ifs, ands, or buts. It will also help depression because it will improve neural mitochondrial function. Because remember, those mitochondria are made of omega-3. The best sources of omega-3 are wild fatty fish such as salmon. However, Dr. Lustig warns that farm-raised fish, especially those treated with antibiotics, and fed grain-based diets contain significantly less omega-3 and more omega-6, which can be harmful to the body. Plant-based sources like chia seeds and walnuts are also excellent alternatives for boosting omega-3 intake. Another highly effective tool in the fight against insulin resistance is monounsaturated fatty acids like oleic acid, found in olive oil. This is a very good fatty acid because it is the endogenous ligand for a receptor in your liver called PPARα. And this is the fuel gauge on the liver cell, basically telling the liver to work more efficiently and work better. So when you are low in PPARα, you don't burn energy as well. It has an effect on mitochondria. So olive oil is a good fatty acid. The only problem with olive oil is that the double bond that makes it monounsaturated. You want cis fatty acids because we don't have the enzyme to break a trans double bond? Olive oil is cis, which is good. But if you heat an olive oil past its smoking point, you risk flipping that bond and creating trans fats right in your skillet. Monounsaturated fats are also found in foods like avocados, macadamia nuts, and almonds. They play a key role in enhancing cellular sensitivity to insulin, reducing inflammation, and supporting heart health. Incorporating these 3 types of healthy fats into your diet is both simple and affordable. And by doing so, you're not just tackling insulin resistance. You're actively protecting yourself against 90% of the diseases most likely to shorten your life. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this content, please share it with your friends and family. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more informative content. And I'll see you next time.